I'll be right back. It's funny, the viewer counter says there's 2 people watching, but I see several more than that in the chat already. Maybe it'll catch up. Good morning, guys. And good morning. How you doing this morning, brother?
Man, I'm good. You've made it to Friday, June 30th.
So
that joke would have landed better
if you hadn't have failed.
Basically. Most things land better if you don't fail.
Like cabbages. So, good morning, guys. Good morning. See a few of you over there on Rumble, and see in the chat there, Fish and Golf's got first blood. Good morning. There's Uncle Steve, Trish. Good morning. Pitt Danny and the Fit Life with Danielle right back to back because Pitt Danny's pulling double time on Twitch. Good job. Good job.
Oh, good. That way, if any Twitch morons stream up, Danny can just. We should just make Danny like the mod for Twitch.
You know, I'll have to look into that. Just give Danny the banhammer for Twitch, because you know, most of the time when we get legitimate trolls that are trying to screw stuff up, they come from Twitch. Of course, the most interesting usernames also come from Twitch. So, it is Firearms Friday, and as a rule on Firearms Friday, what we do is DGUs unless there's a major Supreme Court case or something of the sort related to the gun world that's come down. But this one, there was a major Supreme Court decision yesterday, and I've got this story from Politico. We're not going to spend the whole show on this, but Cameron said, and I agree, that
I hear. Okay, I feel like I hear room tone in the.
That may be. And really, we'd be better off if we had 2 microphones, one each closer to us. But this is what we've got for right now. In fact,
No, I feel like I still hear the room tone. I thought it was I was imagining it because I'm tired. I didn't sleep that well last. It was one
Right.
of those where, but no, I'm still hearing the room tone.
for now, it is a minor enough issue that I'm not going to take corrective steps while we're live. Because the more likely case is we lose audio entirely while I'm trying to fix it.
Yeah,
So-
no, I wanted to bring it up. So, affirmative action, I think, was effectively killed yesterday. Now, is it entirely gone? No. This decision specifically applies to schools. And I've really only got a few things to say about it. One, y'all take the dub. This is a win. This is a good thing. And this is a good thing for a couple of reasons. Not the least of which is this is one of those generational victories. See, if you tell everybody, hey, you have to go to college, you have to go to college, you have to go to college, then they go to college and you stuff them with all this Marxist bullshit, you end up with, the world we live in now where you've got 25-year-olds that think they know everything and have their pronouns in their bio.
Right.
And affirmative action, I would say, directly contributes to that because affirmative action says, okay, when you're considering people for admission to your school, if the word university is anywhere in your name, affirmative action should not be in any way a thing that you consider. You want smart, accomplished people that can go through academia and succeed at it. That's the point of university. Hey, if you made some mistakes in life and you're going to college at 30 years old, they have community colleges, and there's nothing wrong with going that route. Nothing, really. But if you're 18, 19 years old and you're quote-unquote smart, well, I mean, quote-unquote, the last thing that you need is for your higher education to begin as a social experiment instead of one based in intelligence and the ability to learn and all the other stuff, okay? So, take the win. This is a good thing. It is the beginning, because now that this has happened, there will be at least a few other sectors where people will go, well, gosh, I don't think affirmative action is such a good thing. And if you really, 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 really believe in affirmative action, okay, cool. Let me just ask you a question. You're gonna die if you don't get heart surgery. And you have two choices for your surgeon. You can have a guy that got to medical school because of some affirmative action path. Or you can have a guy that was the top of his class in high school, that was the top of his class in college, and then was the top of his class in medical school, legitimately, to do your heart surgery. I know which one of those two I'm going to pick. You can call me racist. I'll be alive to be called racist. And why is there a racial implication? Well, because when affirmative action was put into place about 60 years ago, the thought was, okay, we've held black people back through literal institutional racism for this country's entire founding. We need a form of reparations. We need to balance the scales. We cannot expect for young black people to be able to keep up with young white people because literally they've arrived at this point from two completely different angles. But that was 60 years ago. And since then, we've even had a black president. In fact, we've had a mixed race bastard born president. Don't tell me that if Barack Obama can do it, you can't. Just don't. I would contend that Barack Obama's actually intelligent. He's a socialist shitburger.
Yeah, he's a snake in the grass.
So there's limits to that intelligence. And then But he was smart. So don't tell me that if you're smart and you're hardworking and, frankly, following Obama's example, if you're willing to be cutthroat, that you can't get ahead. So yeah, take the dub. Careful how you. I guess what I'm trying to say is you will probably encounter people that say that this is terrible and it's awful and it's racist and it's all the things. So, well, let's be clear. The Supreme Court struck this down by saying, hey, this actually violates the Equal Protection Clause. It basically violates the 14th Amendment. So don't go into a bunch of things that, and I love you, Chris. I'm going to use you as an example. Don't go into a bunch of things that I think Chris is likely to about to say. I would say instead, restrict your rebuttal and your commentary to something along the lines of, hey, you know what? If you want affirmative action to stick around, I need for you to tell me what problem is so bad we have to violate the 14th Amendment in order to keep affirmative action in place. And just watch that little wheel on the NPC4 brain circle.
Well, anybody who wants to defend affirmative action must defend their racism. It's that simple. Affirmative action was never anything but an active anti-white male policy. What has brought it to the fore sufficiently that a case made it to the Supreme Court is it started to spill over and affect some people who were not white, Asians, because Asians were being discriminated against even more than white people in colleges. That's how the lawsuits came about that got to the Supreme Court.
Oh, math test? You mean dinner table discussion?
Right. So we didn't see any substantial lawsuits that would get to the Supreme Court over affirmative action before the question made it to the colleges, precisely because it's okay to discriminate against white people. Our government, our elected officials, our pop culture says that it's not only okay, it's morally preferable that you hate white people and cause them harm wherever possible. But once that harm moved over to an other than white group, then it became contentious for enough people to make a maneuver on it. And that's why it's been struck down now. But the fact of the matter is, you cannot defend affirmative action without making an argument which is pro-racism. Because that's the point of affirmative action from the get-go, is to support racism. Alex says they'll come up with a new policy to replace it, and honestly, universities will still discriminate by race regardless. There is race discrimination all over the place, no matter what the law is. It's groups, all ethnic groups other than white ethnic groups, show a great deal of in-group preference, right? I don't care if you're talking about black, Jewish, Asian, whatever.
La raza.
La raza, they all exhibit an extreme preference to do business with people who look like they do. That's why you see on Amazon, on billboards, on advertisements, this is a black-owned business. This is an Asian-owned business. This is a minority-owned business, et cetera, et cetera. Point to me the last time you saw an advertisement where a business said, we are a white-owned business. You're not going to find it. And that's because, with the exception of white people, by a staggering majority, people show and act on a distinct in-group preference. While quite contrarily, Western white people, to an extraordinary degree, exhibit and act on an active out-group preference. Right? Now you'll note I didn't say all, but in-group racist preference is a major factor in businesses, except with white-owned businesses. You know what you call a white-owned business? A business. You're not allowed to put a tag on it.
Okay, that was going to be my guess, but I didn't. But it seemed like low-hanging fruit.
It's like, what do you call a black man flying an airplane?
A pilot, you fucking racist.
Exactly. Why do black men like watermelon?
Because it tastes good,
Because
you
it's
fucking
delicious.
racist.
So,
Didn't Michelle Obama write her master's thesis on this about why black communities need to keep as much of their money in-house as
I
possible?
think so, yeah.
I want to say it was Michelle Obama. God, man, we're talking about controversies now, or at least interesting things. The problem with paying attention and giving half a shit about the world around you is I've been doing that for, gosh, coming up on 30 years now. So there's 30 years worth of shit bouncing around in here. That's like,
Well, and the other obvious major problem with affirmative action, and what just blows my mind that anybody could get behind it to begin with, is if you're a business person, your interest is the bottom line. It's this simple. Being a racist is expensive.
yeah, like I don't care what color your skin is. I care what color your money is.
Mm-hmm.
I care if you write me a check and say cash it on Friday, will it cash on Friday? That's what I care about. All that other stuff is a distant second place.
Right.
Distant.
So,
Still, it's a good thing, though.
oh, yeah.
I mean, it's a great thing. And, you said, and I know distinction without a difference and all that, but I would argue that part of what led to the current paradigm that we have, where it's okay to deliberately discriminate against white people, socially acceptable, morally preferable, however you want to phrase it, I don't think it started out that way. Affirmative action effectively in the college education system was about 60 years old when it died yesterday, which meant there were people that were born in a world after affirmative action was a thing, and then they had their own children who were also born.
There are people who retired in that world.
That's right. And then there were also people who were born like 2 generations down in a world of affirmative action where that was just the norm. There's a controversy in Villa Rica, a small town outside of Georgia right now, at some self-defense class, and one of the targets in the self-defense class was a black man, and whatever local I'm an offended colored person chapter is out there is, raising all kind of a stink, and they're all over WSB. But I can't believe we have to see our face on this target.
Were there other targets that were not black men?
Oh, well, that's conveniently left out of the story. The only thing that's in the story is I can't believe I have to see. But what I'm getting at is after generations of it being the norm, after generations of being taught, oh, you poor POC, you, the problem is not you. The problem is the fact that ever since you were born, everything has had to grind you down because you're this special, beautiful African flower, and the white man is terrified of you and simultaneously envious of your body. So we've got to do all these things to balance out the playing field. Otherwise, the white guy will screw you. I think that's what's led to some of the mentalities that we have in our culture. And I don't think I'm being Pollyannish about this. And it will take a long time to de-wokeify the university system, and will probably never happen entirely. But, I think 10 years from now, 20 years from now, when all the top schools are dominated by Asians, which is what should happen if they're admitting students based on test scores, I think that will make a big difference in that current, white versus black thing that most real people don't feel. Most people on the ground level don't see it that way. But it has been institutionalized, and I think the university is a real nexus for it because you're still young enough to be dumb as shit, but you're old enough to be able to move away from your parents so you could be influenced. Right. Yes.
Oh, that's why we want soldiers to go to basic combat training when they're 18 and not when they're 25. It's
You mean because they're still dumb enough?
I mean, let's be very candid about this. What we're talking about with the university is an institution that's being used by the enemies of the United States of America for the purpose of conducting a war against the United States. It's an ideological war. It is a war of communication and memification, but it is in fact a war, and that's where we are. Now, we've spent enough time on that, though. Do you agree?
Just one more sentence. Okay. Well, a couple of sentences, but I'll do it fast. Just to button it up, call it a dub. If you really want to take the highest ground position, here's how you really fuck them up. Hey, isn't this proof that we really have begun to heal from America's racist past?
Okay. You want to do this first, DGU?
I opened. Please, you let me have the first.
Before we go down a rabbit hole, let's get a couple. I've got three. Let's do
Here,
three.
Please, you go.
And I only pulled up three because I knew we were going to spend a bit of time on that. So Long Beach homeowner fatally shoots woman attacking neighbor. Woman shot dead by Long Beach homeowner after harassing neighbors.
Some serious harassment.
Long Beach homeowner fatally shot a woman who was harassing his neighborhood early Saturday morning. According to Long Beach Police Department, neighbors say that the woman was following people home and pounding on front doors and windows in the early morning just after midnight before she attacked a woman. The shooting happened minutes before 1 o'clock in the 600 block of Roycroft Avenue, police said, when a man shot a woman in the head.
Off switch.
Excuse me. Through their preliminary investigation, including statements provided from witnesses, detectives learned a male adult observed a female adult attacking another woman. Said Long Beach Police Department spokeswoman Alyssa Baeza. The female victim was calling for help, and the man armed himself with a handgun. Investigators believe that the man was armed prior to the altercation due to the prior suspicious activity in front of his residence. The deceased woman, who's been identified as 44-year-old East Long Beach resident Andrew Powell.
Oh, wait a minute. Time out. Is this a boy named Sue? What?
Apparently this is a chick named Andrew.
Okay. Look, sometimes girls are named Charlie.
I'm looking for... but...
Okay.
Usually a girl named Charlie. Charlie is short for something more feminine.
No, I knew a girl named Charlie whose name was Charlie.
But I was looking to see. I don't think the deceased woman's name is mentioned anywhere else. I was looking to see if maybe that was a typo and it was Andrea or something. But whatever. Andrew Powell was fatally shot as she was charging towards the armed homeowner, police said. He was trying to protect himself and the other neighbors as well, said one resident, Eileen Gelso, who says that Powell was banging on doors over and over, demanding money. She was definitely dangerous. I believe that. The homeowner was detained and officers recovered his handgun from the scene, but after gathering evidence and interviewing witnesses, he was released. I bet his gun wasn't released.
Nope.
Grieving family members who say they plan to pursue legal action against the homeowner say that Powell was undergoing a mental crisis at the time of the incident and that the use of force was extremely unnecessary. Okay. I'm going to be a little hard on people with mental health issues for a minute here. So The grieving family members who say they plan to pursue legal action against the homeowner say that Powell was undergoing a mental crisis at the time of the incident and that the use of force was extremely unnecessary. The family members were not there. They don't know what was happening. And listen, I understand, dear family members, if one of your family members dies as a result of their own bad actions, that hurts. You feel awful about it, right? But if they had it coming, your feelings about it don't change the facts about it. In this case, right, there are plenty of mitigating factors that may exist that we're not aware of. However, in this case, given the facts listed in the article that this woman was going around banging on doors in the middle of the night, waking people up, demanding money in the middle of the night, right? For those to be the facts observed by the witnesses and then the family members to come forward and say she was undergoing a mental crisis at the time, that makes it sound a hell of a lot like she went crazy, and as a result of her damaged mental health, she had become a danger to herself and others. And those others have a right, despite whatever psychopathy has riddled this poor woman's mind, the others have a right themselves to protect themselves and to survive. So I don't care if you're on a murder spree because that's just your kink, or if you're doing it because the pod people have taken over your brain, or any reason in between. If you have presented as a threat to others, those others have a right to deal with that threat and try to survive that situation. So let's just assume for a moment that the family is correct. There was a mental crisis, and this woman would have had a very reasonable claim for an insanity defense, even a temporary insanity defense, in a court of law. That does not change the fact that her rampage put people in harm's way.
You know, I'd go so far as to say somebody having a true mental break, a true psychotic episode, is one of the main things you want to defend yourself against. Because, dude, crazy somehow has the ability to defy physics.
Right.
Like,
well, and you can argue with evil. You can make a deal with evil.
That's right. But actual crazy, bro, man, I've only seen it a couple of times in my life, but when people are really crazy, you'd be amazed at what a 150-pound woman can do. Because she crazy. And I know this is awful, but it's a woman named Andrew Powell who had a mental health issue. I mean...
Yeah.
Hey, it's the last day of Pride Month. Is this how we're going to end it? On a story about a tea? Is that what we're going to do?
Well, it's 7:59. We could do the safety brief and put a pin in it right there and just finish the show on they're crazy.
Or
we could do two more.
Or we could just point out that if you've never had massive amounts of testosterone flow through your body until you're 28 years old and suddenly you start getting boosted up on that shit, and now all of a sudden you understand why men make jokes about wanting to eat raw meat and burn things down, and you're feeling that for the first time in your life, and you've already got mental health issues. Is it really that weird that you'd run around the neighborhood and bang on doors?
Yeah, sweetheart, if you've made it to your 20s, and you did not grow up swinging on hanging ropes while wearing boxing gloves to punch each other on a basketball court, you might not be ready for the T word. You just might not be ready for it. You didn't grow up brawling. You might not be ready for a sudden injection of testosterone. So
if you want to do more, we'd do more. That'd be great. But if you want to just end it right there, because it is the last day of Pride Month, then that would there'd be some nice memetics there.
Oh wow. Maul says, Sergeant Major and I saw a billboard the other day that said, reopen Central State Hospital, save lives. Mom, send me a text message. Where did you see that billboard? I'd like to go get a picture of that.
That's actually a discussion being had in certain circles.
And I want to have that discussion.
And where, one of Reagan's mistakes, the blowback from, his time, is that it seemed like a really good idea because there was a lot of abuse that happened in mental hospitals. However, when somebody's really nutty and you have to hold them down and have them on lithium for an extended period of time so the voices in their head will shut up longer. Because when you have somebody that has schizophrenia, one of the hardest things, we could treat schizophrenia, but you have to get the person that has schizophrenia to understand that they have it.
Right.
And while you're in a manic episode of schizophrenia, you cannot be convinced that you have schizophrenia. And so maybe it's time to bring it back.
Okay, so I'm going to address Steve's comment real quick, and then we're going to put a pin in this one because this is a conversation that we can run way deep down and is worth having. But Steve says, as bad as mental places could be, they were not as cruel as life outside for the people that need them. And
yeah, you don't flip out and run around a neighborhood at midnight and end up getting shot by some guy that's just concerned for his neighbor.
Right. And if you want to see what it looks like to have a world without mental hospitals, without asylums, without sanitariums, get yourself on the freeway and drive by an Atlanta overpass and take a peek at one of them tent cities.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's the alternative.
Yeah, where I-20 merges into 285.
Yeah.
And you literally come up the ramp and they stand on the ramp all with their cups out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in the wrong part of Decatur yesterday, and I saw one where...
Is there a right part of Decatur?
No. Okay, down by the courthouse, there's the Raging Burrito and a pretty nice park. So there is a right part of Decatur, but you can fit it in this coffee cup. But I saw a couple of restaurants that had gone out of business and were closed, and the parking lots were empty, and there were tent city type housing structures just abutted right up to the restaurant. So clear, people are in the restaurant and in these tents living on this essentially condemned, closed down property. But safety brief. We don't have any sanitariums, guys. So there's crazy people out there. Go thyself girded out into the world, because it's not just evil that might destroy you. It's crazy shitheads. They're out there. And like I said, the facts of the case, if you're under physical threat, you shouldn't have to worry about the mental health state of the threat. You have to worry about your personal security and safety. And all of the factors that led up to you being in danger, which were external to your control, do not your decisions make for you. So, go thee girded. Keep calm and carry one, like our buddy Steve likes to say.
Oh, and hallelujah, we're done with Pride Month.
Yes. And with any luck, the disaster that this Pride Month has been for the LGBT community will have an effect on Pride Months going in the future.
Don't drink and drive, and if you do, wear a condom.
Parks, if that's the only comment you've got today, I'm glad that's the one you had. All right, guys, y'all be safe out there. We love you, and we will see you on Monday.